They gotta be down, one of these days. And they don't come back.
Okay, folks. It is 3 minutes past 7. This is the regular meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission of the town of New Hartford, taking place Monday, June 25th, at 7 p.m. in New Hartford Town Hall, 530 Main Street. On my left is Stacy Sepchik, our recording secretary, Wayne Wisner, who is seated for Nancy Perez. He's our alternate. Jack Trumbull, who is our vice chairman. Dimas Bertolo, a regular member. Troy Lemire, a regular member. Ann Paul, a regular member. And Rista Malaka, our enforcement officer. The first item on the agenda this evening is public hearings. We have 3. The first public hearing is for David Miner, 134 Camper Coleman Road, upgrade and relocate the septic system within the regulated area. Who is representing David?
Good. David Miner.
Would you tell us what you're doing?
Yes, we have our place at 134 Camper Coleman Road, and there's 3 things we want to do that are within the 100-foot upland review area. First is to install a water lateral from a well that we built some time ago, but have never hooked up to the cottage. And in order to preserve that, we want to enclose the little 8x8 space. That's the bathroom area at the back. And bring the line into that. And that brings into play upgrading and relocating the septic and the pump chamber to fall within the requirements that are established today that weren't with the old system. That's about it in a nutshell.
Do members of the commission have any questions that they would like to ask of the applicant?
Only thing I'd like to propose is maybe Jamie could give me some information how to do a leaching system that,
I don't do leaching systems in the state of
Obviously,
well, you came up with that suggestion
Farmington
earlier.
Valley has okayed the design.
They have, and that's the Farmington Valley Health involvement is what's precipitated the majority of it.
And
One thing sets other things into play.
the one thing that I think is important to point out, the existing septic was done in 1996, and it's unknown if it's a code compliant septic or not to this date. By getting rid of the septic that's there and putting in the new septic system, the new chambers that they're putting in, we will know that they're watertight, we'll know that they're code compliant, and it'll be better than what's there. So it is gonna be an upgrade, and right now, because it was several years ago, it's unknown to what's really now.
Got a lot of excavation or being done, or
No, it's just to put in those new tanks, it's gotta be a minimal amount of clearing. I think we've figured out a way that we can bring the line in without disturbing much of the trees and whatever that are there. And what little bit we'd be cutting through would be a little bit of laurel and some small hemlocks.
And I have done a site visit. The regulated area is just to the rear of their house. There's very little of this project that's even in the regulated area. From the house down, it's pretty well vegetated, it's very stable. It's not a real steep slope. I think there's very slight chance that there would be any erosion. There is proper sedimentation erosion controls on the plants. And like Mr. Miner just said, the clearing that has to be done, there's not a lot of large trees, it's a lot of undergrowth, shrub type stuff that could easily be replanted and brought back once the line was in. For the top, there's not a lot of forest removal type of thing when you're talking about clearing.
Anybody else on the commission with questions at this point? Sure. I'll give you another chance. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this application as being a public hearing? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this application either positively or negatively? Yes. Any more questions or comments from the commissioners? Silence reigns. Hearing none, I will accept the motion.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing on David Minor, 134 Capricorn Road, upgrade and relocate septic system within regulated area.
I'll second.
Wayne seconds. All in favor?
Right.
Public hearing is closed. We will possibly consider this and make a decision later this evening. I can't guarantee it, but it certainly is possible. I should, yeah. For the, I should read this into the record now. For the record, affidavit of publication, this applies to all three of the public hearings. I, Rena Mattis, do solemnly swear that I am financial operations assistant of the Hartford Current Printed and Published Daily in the state of Connecticut, and the following notice was placed in, we talk about fine print. The Inland Wetlands Commission will conduct the following public hearings: David Minor, 134 Capricorn Road; Edward Smith for J.T. Smith Family Estate LLC, 108 Pond Road; and Rafe and Kimberly Vigil, 64 Stub Hollow Road, after the fact for a pond. So these were published, and we do have,
Yes, and we have stapled in there the proof of notice.
and we have a notice of mailing, certificate of mailing. So that bit of necessary work has been done. The next public hearing is Edward Smith for J.T. Smith Family Estate LLC, 108 Pond Road, installation of a footing drain, repair of structural damage caused by erosion, and removal of 7 trees.
Correct.
Would you, since it's a public hearing, you need to stand up and tell us who you are and what you're up to, even though we looked at it.
My name's Edward Smith. My family owns the property at 108 Pond Road. What we're looking to do is correct erosion that's affecting the footings and the foundation on the house, and remove 7 hemlock trees that are on their way out. They've got some kind of blight, and we're also looking to regrade the parking lot, the parking area above the cottage, so that we've got some place for the water to sit and dissipate instead of rushing down the hill.
A site visit by the commission was made to this site, and essentially what we saw is what he's described in a nutshell.
Do we have any site plans?
We do. It's a sketch. We have a survey of the property with the foundation and the areas pointed out where the trees will be removed, where the filling and grading will take place, it's marked footing drains on here, but they're really gonna be, only about 4 feet down, perforated pipes with, stone over the top, correct? That's to collect the overland flow of surface water. So we have this. In addition, we also have a narrative, which has been amended to describe all of the projects. And the amendment is to add the grading and filling of the parking lot.
Of the 7 trees that we're talking about removing, 3 of them are right on the corner where some of the drainage work is involved, so those 3, the stumps have to come out on the rest of them. The ones that are closer down to the water, the stumps are gonna stay in place. Just gonna cut them to grade.
You show that here.
Yeah.
How much of this technically is within the buffer zone? The 100 feet?
All of it except the parking lot
I
where
thought the parking lot was out.
it is,
Yeah.
just, well, it's right on the
We
border.
looked at it, it's like,
I think the thing that's important here is to make sure that the swale doesn't
Yeah.
become a channel, that at the least, it didn't say here exactly how it's gonna be done in previous conversations. With the contractor, he's gonna be putting riprap in there, leaving as much of the boulders and stumps that are there now, and to put additional riprap. I think it could,
I think
the
that can be
condition
a
of
condition.
approval that it at least be armored for that.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Jack?
I just always worry if we don't have a plan on paper, because, you know, you can tell us anything, and we'll agree to almost anything, and then, you know, that doesn't mean it's gonna happen. At least if it's on paper, you know, we have a shot,
Yeah, well, a combination of the paper and the discussion here.
and narrative, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
That is,
I would say that the major thing would be that channel.
the major thing is the channel.
Yeah.
And I think when we deliberate on this later, I think we'll want to
So the
discuss.
channel is going to go into the code, Wesley?
It kind of stops short of it, but not much short of it, so we need to think about a condition which would govern the possible erosion of that channel.
And there were no provisions for spreading it out, or?
How much water does this,
At times it can be a lot.
of its peaking?
But
It's not,
very-
it is not consistent.
We don't know how much water.
No, there's no calculation on it, it would be very difficult to make it. And in fact, the work which he is proposing on the parking lot above it will make a substantial reduction in the amount of water and shade for people. Tremendously. At the present time on this site, the parking lot above this property is ingeniously designed to channel the water as efficiently and effectively as possible under the foundations of this channel. And I believe that one of Mr. Smith's objectives of the exercise is to alter that. Would that be a fair statement?
It would, otherwise the cottage is gonna end up in the lake.
And it's a very small site, it's
Very tight.
very tight, very little things to do from an LID perspective. There's not a lot of room for detention basins, there's not a lot of room for check dams, so we're really limited with what they can do,
And it's steep right down to the water.
yeah.
So it sounds like the key to this is to getting that parking area set appropriately.
That's genuine, in my view, that's genuinely the real key to this thing, is oddly enough, is the work outside the.
So,
Yeah.
And
our-
what exactly is the plan for parking lot?
Regraded, and I believe they
Redirect
burn
water around the
and
cottages.
have berm
At the
on it
cottage.
to spread the flow out a little more. At the moment, as I say, it's cleverly graded in such a way to direct the flow line straight down.
But it is gonna remain gravel? or-
Yes, right.
Any comments from?
We're getting most of the flow down from the fork on Pond Road, and then the two properties to the north of us, to the south of us, have installed a septic system that's directs all the water around the back of the septic system, and when their parking lot was regraded, again, it's graded the way I wanna do ours when we're finished, so that it's coming away from the house, but it's directing all the water down to our, we're at the low spot right there.
So
We're at the bottom of the funnel.
they get the runoff from the road, they get the runoff from the septic and from the woods behind them, and it all goes to one spot.
My understanding is flattening and the burn to spread this out and reduce it.
And is there any space, I mean, I unfortunately was not able to go on the sidewalk, is there any space at the bottom here to do any spreading of water?
It's the proverbial steep as a cow's nose of her grazing.
So what are your plans in terms of planting down at the lake? Nothing?
No plans.
No plans?
No. We just, there's laurel around there, hopefully when the trees are gone and we get some sunlight in there, we're gonna put up some barrier stuff between us and the neighbor just for privacy. It won't, minimal.
And the stumps down by the water won't be removed, so there won't be erosion down by that path.
Any comments from anybody in the audience on this project? Any further comments from members of the commission? Hearing none.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on Edward Smith for J.T. Smith Family Estates LLC, 108 Pond Road, installation of footing drain, repair of structural damage caused by erosion, removal of 7 trees.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing for Edward Smith is closed. As I mentioned earlier, we will discuss this later, probably this evening. The third public hearing this evening, and by golly, guys, I'm gonna batter your name again.
How you getting
Is Rafe and Kimberly Tato?
Ray Faisal, 64 Stone Hollow Road. Get a little more overview again.
Do you have the return receipts from this?
No, did he need them?
I didn't know having.
You wanna come and grab them?
I don't think that's necessary this evening.
You don't have to street dogs.
Yeah, I know where you are.
I could talk about tomorrow.
What do you think? This is a procedural, unfortunately, this is a procedural issue. We really do have to have it. Would you run up the street and get it?
Okay.
I hate to ask you to, it's a lot of gas.
Not much.
Yeah, people got it. It's
Right.
everything else for you.
And,
They don't burn anyways, so go.
would you, we've heard from this before, but as it's a public hearing, we hear a brief
Okay.
description of what it was. In this case, this is a fact hearing.
Basically,
What was done and
what will be.
what will be.
Basically, what was done is, we ended up clearing our front yard. We probably took some trees down there. Most of them we took down were, dead hemlocks, some house still alive. We, started grading the front yard. We placed, riprap in the front of the yard. And then we, replaced our, underneath the driveway where, driveway, I think it was an 18-inch pipe. What was I gonna say? I forgot. 18-inch pipe, and then obviously we had the riprap, 4 to 6 inch riprap there. And then, we got our grate going there, but then decided to dig a pond. So we dug the pond in there, and, it's a 35 by 60 pond. And then, what we need to finish right now is just drainage from the driveway, and like slope it and pull up through the stumps that are on the ground.
Questions and comments from the commission?
Do we have any plans to show this property with the wetlands or anything going on?
We have no plans showing the actual wetlands boundaries.
So we have no idea how much.
It is our belief that the entire area which was affected was wetlands. Unfortunately, since it is now been heavily drained, a good deal of it, it will be very difficult to turn.
Yeah, Jack, they had a contractor, out of Winston, who knows better, do it. Than the case
That
was.
was gonna be my question, who did the work?
Don LaPointe and his son.
They should
That's
go
my
out.
problem with this, Jack.
Absolutely, no question in my mind. I'm very upset, I don't like this at all. We have no plans, we have no plans to show what was there beforehand, no plans to show what was gonna be done really, except what has been done. We have no idea how much water is gonna go through that pipe. We have, no idea how much fill has been taken out or moved or where it's been put. We have nothing. And I don't think that this should be done. I think the contractor ought to come in here with a plan to show us what was done, how much fill was moved, what are the flow rates for that pipe, where is that water gonna go as it might affect the neighbors? What is the size of that pond, what's gonna happen with that pond? There's all kinds of things
I
here.
asked for the contractor to be here, and did you contact
I
the
tried
contractor?
contacting today, I saw him by and he didn't get back to me.
To tell you the truth, I don't think it's fair that all of these questions need to be answered from this gentleman, it's not fair to him.
No.
We need to have the guy who did this work come in here and answer to this commission what he did specifically, so we can make a better decision. We are
Yeah.
uninformed at this point.
I
It's
think
not
this is-
fair to throw it on him either.
Yeah, I think this is a fundamental
I agree.
problem, Ralph. I would like to read into the record at this point, however, a letter which the commission received. James Hall, Chairman of the Wetlands Commission, Town of New Hartford, 530 Main Street, New Hartford, Connecticut. Rafe and Kimberly Fetzo, 64 Stub Hollow Road. I have received a letter regarding the application to be heard Monday, June 25th, 2012. plan submitted with the Inland Wetlands Officer, Krista Mamaka, in the town hall. Mr. Vetto and I have walked the site and discussed the plan with his contractor. As an adjoining property owner, I am aware of the natural runoff and the need to control the drainage. I support this effort to control these conditions and to improve the topography of this property. In addition, this project will substantially improve the appearance of their recently acquired home site. I encourage the commission to approve this application. Respectfully submitted, Robert H. Rasson, 56 Stubb Hollow Road, New Hartford, Connecticut. It's your immediate neighbor.
It's not even mixed up.
Yeah.
And
So
that's the one.
that is submitted,
He sent me the same letter the same day.
yeah,
I got it in the mail.
yeah, but that's part of the record here.
And I do just wanna, I think that your concerns are very legitimate. As a homeowner though, he is responsible for that, and we can't order him to bring his contractor, because if the contractor says no, we can't make him, he's ultimately the homeowner. So I think that it's important that at this point, of course, I think you got the point that it'd be best if your contractor can come, but if he can't, what are the questions you want answered, what do you wanna see? And
I wanna see a plan, I wanna see a site plan, I wanna see.
So you want an official site plan,
I
you
want
want
an
a soil
official site plan,
scientist?
I wanna see where the boundary lines are, I wanna see where the wetlands was, I wanna see how much has been disturbed,
We wanna know where the
I wanna
30
know
by
how much
60
fill has been moved.
fill has been moved, correct?
I wanna
think
know
we
what the
need-
water flow is gonna be, there's lots of stuff I wanna know.
I think, however, and as a general principle, I agree, but I think, however, we need to take into consideration I think we need to have in the backs of our minds on this one. What are we going to do
Well,
if our homeowner here finds himself unable, which he may well find himself unable, to get this information from his contractor? I think we need to
he can hire an
You're gonna
engineer.
have to hire an engineer to get it.
I don't care where he gets it or how he gets it, it's not our fault, it's not our worry. He can hire an engineer and have it done,
This
and
is
it
a
can be
big
done
scope
by
of
our
work.
next meeting.
This is a big scope of work in my eyes, and
It should have been done to begin with. There's no, I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for him.
I think the proper thing to do then is to continue this hearing.
Well, the other thing is that we're also within our right to ask for a mitigation plan. A plan
correct.
to put this back close to what it was.
Okay.
So I don't know whether I
I would
like
like
that or not,
I
but.
don't think I have enough information one way or the other, and I think that's the real problem here, is there's simply not enough information as to what the future drainage, that's one thing I'd like to know, what the finished drainage plan is, as to whether or not, what the best decision would be going forward from this.
I think asking for this type of information that can be obtained certainly is valid. I think we would need to think very carefully if we were to determine that in this specific instance, that some mitigation, perhaps even restoration, were to be asked. I think that would be personally, I feel that would be a very extreme step.
Is it going to cause more damage by putting it back the way it was?
Depends. We gotta find out what was done, because we don't know what was done.
And
If,
if I may, as a personal, not as chairman, but as a personal comment on that, in my judgment, the answer is yes. Substantially.
And basically, I watched what I did, all the fill, or anything they dug from the pond went right in the front. Nothing went anywhere else.
So you filled in wetlands.
Which is against the law.
see, that's the problem I'm having, is that this site was mostly wetlands, delineations. If it was just a little bit, I'd feel a little better, but since it was mostly all wetlands, it's a substantial issue at this point.
I'm sure there's other people that would love to make their yard out of wetlands, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
Pond is,
yes.
but They come before this
From the map
commission.
that I got though, it didn't look like there was any wetlands in my yard though.
Well, this is, that's another problem.
And another thing I wanna state is, I think from this, we should learn, and I think we should come up with some kind of method to go after a contractor that does this kind of work without a permit.
We've been-
All I know is he took all my money.
Yeah.
It's paid for, so, I mean,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, this is, I think this is a situation where we have a homeowner who, for various reasons, and which kind of came up with when we were talking about West Hill Pump earlier, who for various reasons was not aware that he needed a specific permit for this work. Compounded with a contractor who jolly well was aware, because he's been here before us, that a permit was needed, who failed to obtain one. And I think we need to consider, and as I say, I'm going to ask the commission for a continuation of this hearing. I think we need to consider both the position of the contractor and of the homeowner. And I think that visiting, you use language from another area, I think visiting the sins of the contractor on the homeowner may not necessarily be, but that's personal opinion. So I will ask for a motion to continue this hearing.
Before we do that, so we want a soil scientist report, and we want
Thank you.
a surveyor, is that what I'm hearing?
Apparently that's, I think that needs to be part of the motion. I think
What
which we will
exactly
vote
what?
on.
And if we have a soil scientist, and we're looking for your expertise, is he gonna be able to, he's just gonna say it's disturbed, is he gonna
We
say?
may not be able to indicate where the wetlands was, but we should. But I think this needs to be part of the motion as to exactly what is what.
I mean,
And therefore, I'm
is
going
it
to.
easier for me just to bury that up, cause I mean.
No, it would cause more damage than we. And so I think it would be appropriate for Jack or Troy to make the motion.
Soil science. Approximate, amount of cubic yards of material removed and replaced.
I'll move that, we continue the application,
Continue the hearing.
continue the hearing, I'm sorry. For Rafe and Kimberly, Spicer, at 64 Stub Hollow Road, so that, they can supply us with a site plan that shows, the wetlands, in the site, as it can be delineated at this time, the amount of, or approximate amount of material that was moved from the wetlands and where it was put, the suitability, the size of the drainage, the pipe that they put in, what else, Troy?
Soil scientist?
Well, that's, he already said that, delineate the wetlands.
If it's possible. Let's see,
I think you got it, Jack.
I think that's it.
Okay, we have
Yeah,
a
I'll second
Troy
that.
seconds it. Any further discussion?
Oh, I would like to say, I think that can be done by the next meeting.
What has to be?
It has to be, because we're extending the hearing.
When's the next meeting?
Third days.
30 days?
Second, Troy. Any further discussion on the motion? favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now if I go spend money for a soil scientist and whatever the list was going on, is that guarantee like?
Nothing's guaranteed,
So
nothing.
what's the point of doing it then? What if I just don't want any, like, why
Because you didn't do it in the
that?
first place, that's why.
I mean,
Contractor's fault.
Yeah, you could go after your contractor maybe for the cost.
Probably not, as a matter of fact,
No.
it's not in the contract.
and if I wanna just bury it, that's
Very,
on,
well, we
take
may,
everything from the front, put it in the
we
back.
we could make you do that. We could make you bring it back to where it was.
So can we just do that now instead?
No, you can't do nothing until you finish this area.
We need information, I guess, you know.
If I
I'm
may,
just trying not to spend more money, if
no,
it's like,
yeah,
waste
if
of
I
money
may,
now.
if I may, the motion to continue was made. It contained certain conditions. It has been seconded. It was voted on and was voted in favor 5-1. My personal view, it was a serious overkill. But that's my personal view. The best advice I can give you is to endeavor to obtain the information which the commission has requested of you and to return. If you find that you are not able to, either because for financial reasons or simply because it simply cannot be done in that time, you will need to come back and you will need to tell us that. And the commission will then be obliged to make a decision based on that. Until that time, I would suggest that you will not do anything.
I would,
Yeah. I cannot tell you, obviously, what the commission's decision will be at that time.
that's fair enough.
I've made my comment, you've heard the various commissioners' comments. Okay.
Thank you.
And thank you, Kimberly, for bringing down the certification.
Thank you. Can you,
Thank
please
you.
just email me the list, what you gotta do?
I will.
Alright, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is new applications. There are no new applications before us on the agenda. However, would this be where they should go?
You know, since everybody, well, to take care of this one.
Let's do this,
And
let's do
then-
these two first, these three.
Well, the only people that are still left is Mr. LaPlante for item A.
Yep.
And then if we wanna take care of.
Well, I think we should,
Stick with-
let's just do this. Okay, there are no new applications. The pending applications, there are 4. The first pending application is WFL Properties Incorporated, 81 Winchester Road, land clearing and construction of a single-family dwelling in the upland review area. You may recall this was a situation, a property on Winchester Road, where the proposal is to, the work is entirely in the upland review area. The proposal is to clear some land to prepare for construction of a single-family dwelling, and it contains also the proposed location of the dwelling and septic system. There's no work within the wetlands at all.
My only, 2 comments on this. There's for sedimentation and erosion control, there's proposed silt fence. I think the silt fence is perfectly adequate when the project is under site. However, because we don't know when the house will be built, I'd recommend that in the northerly corner down here,
Within 100 feet of this project or on this site, that we do not, in fact, have regulated activities.
I'll make that motion.
Any further discussion? Second? Second?
I'll second.
Do you have further discussion, Wayne?
What I was just gonna say is, the phrase that I heard you say, no wetlands or water courses in the area,
That's right.
I think is the determinant at this point.
Yeah.
Even know,
Nothing we can
the
do.
notification piece
Absolutely nothing.
is something that we need to.
We simply
pay
don't have
attention to.
jurisdiction.
Right.
That's the determinant.
There are no regulated activities on this site. This is,
Whether we think it's a smart thing to do or not.
that is irrelevant. It is essential that this Wetlands Commission remember that we confine ourselves to what is written. All in favor of sending such a letter to the town of New Hartford? All opposed? Troy?
Next item, I don't know if you want me to.
Item A is to place on the agenda a discussion with First Selectman Dan Jerem regarding Steel Road training.
Now, this is something that I would normally handle under enforcement report, because it's just regular maintenance of a road, drainage work. However, because it's more substantial, not as far as the work itself, but the number of culverts and the number of pipes that have to be done, Dan and Roger were here to discuss it, so that's why we're.
However, it's necessary to be voted under the agenda, whether we wish to.
So do we have jurisdiction over this one?
No,
Probably not, but in order to determine what is being done at all, whether we even want to talk to Mr. Jerem, Mr. Hogan, about this project, it is necessary to vote it onto the agenda.
I'll make a motion to vote Part A onto the agenda for tonight.
May I have a second?
Second.
Further discussion of the motion to vote this item onto the agenda.
I think the public should have the right to know what is on the agenda again, and I'm gonna state that point, and for the record, I vote no.
I will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion?
aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Randy. At least I got one of you with me.
Mr. Jerem, would you or your team engineer care to tell us what you were up to?
Sure. Since October of last year, we had a town meeting where the town appropriated substantial funds to redo the southerly 1 mile portion of Steel Road. It's long been neglected. The byproduct of that meeting, that was a vote to approve $225,000 to do a full depth reclamation of the road from Pine Hill Road as far north as we can get. We estimated between 1 and 1.1 miles, which ends roughly at Storkerson, Boston property. The outcome of that meeting was, don't rush. The public was heard saying, take your time, do the drainage correctly. We've waited this long, we want the job done correctly. You're not leaving me, are you, Raj?
No.
So, having heard that, obviously we waited through the winter. We had Roger meet with our highway foreman, DPW foreman, Doug Spencer, Rista, myself on several occasions to go down to evaluate the existing pipes for recommendations from the town's consulting engineer on how to go about improving the drainage system so that once we do repave the entirety of the road, what's there underneath the road is appropriate. Roger has come up with a set of evaluations that have since gone out to bid. There are a total, I believe, of 10 crossings in between the Ross property at Pine Hill Road, where Ross's Pond is, if you're familiar with the territory, going all the way up to it, Stedman Road, and then several as you continue up singular crossings there that are scheduled to be replaced.
Because for crossings, he's not talking about wetlands crossings, he's
Talking
talking
about
about
cross
pipe
pipes.
crossings, yeah.
I'm sorry if I
Cross
use,
pipes.
if I'm intermingling a term that might be sensitive to you guys. We're not talking about crosses, we're talking about cross pipes. So, the two most complex crossings or cross pipes are not, that are subject to, I believe, DEP review, Roger?
Yes.
At Ross's at the pond and at Storkerson's are not being addressed as a part of this project. The 9 crossings, cross pipes, within the center. Or, excuse me, 8, 2 of which are at Stedman Road and are referred to as, each of the pipes are identified numerically from Ross's, which is pipe 1, pipes 2 and 2A at Stedman, increasing up all the way to crossing 9 at Storkerson. That's how the town has referred to this process with our engineer. Roger has gone through and made a recommendation to the town, which he could hopefully give you a quick summary. If, Roger, you wanna come on over and discuss what you have recommended to the town that would be done?
2A, 2 and 2A on your map, which is the intersection of Stedman and
So start with
Still
1,
would-
there'll be nothing done at 1.
one is the crossing at Ross's Pond, and nothing is proposed there because of drainage area size and other logistics of getting permission and stuff to do the work.
And cost.
Yes.
Fussy part.
2 is a set of catch basins and cross culverts that cross over Steel Road and then across Stedman Road and discharge. There would be new catch basins installed there.
A visual. The pipes that he's talking about. Right.
The contractors that have evaluated these catch basins say that there is absolutely no value to the existing catch basins. They need to be completely replaced. Any type of try to modify them to work within their old concrete block basins that have been there for many years, any try to modify them will surely lead to their collapse. And so they are requesting complete reconstruction and replacement.
Because they're gonna be working alongside the road, basically, they're not gonna go off into the drainage off anywhere else right now. So is there gonna be wetlands disturbance with these road crossing, pipes, et cetera?
Not really. I mean, they're going to the limits and to the existing drainage paths,
They're gonna drain out to where the water now drains,
out to where the water now drains.
just do it much more efficiently.
This particular one, and when we go through them, is replacing what's there. It's not changing the drainage, it's not repairing the drainage. If this was the only job that they were doing, it wouldn't come before you, it would be on my report, replace, repair drainage.
Yeah,
It-
that's my point.
Right, and so, and the reason that it's coming before you, this whole project is coming for you, if any one of these were done individually, I probably wouldn't even bring it before this commission, I'd handle it under my enforcement report and just tell you. But because they're all being done at the same time, we're tearing up all of Steel Road, I think it's important that this commission, you have said several times and several occasions that you just wanna be aware of what the town is doing and be kept in the loop. So this is not an application, this is not a request for approval, because I think each project individually could be handled under their general permit.
You're just giving us an
I'm just giving you
opportunity
the
to know
opportunity, the
about it.
heads up,
Right.
and
And they're not
what would you
gonna-
like to do?
And if
Because-
this commission has any suggestions?
They're
Because
still
this is
not
what you
gonna
asked.
address, what was the fellow's name?
Storkerson.
With the driveway there,
Well, I think the plan
that's gonna
is
be
to
a
address
separate
it,
issue.
but just not at this point, because it does require DEP approval and the money, so it is in the
That's-
plan to
okay.
address down the
Right.
road, just not at this
We-
point.
Ross's is in the same,
Right.
same situation and is, if anything, in my view, is a more difficult
Very.
situation
Oh, yeah.
than Storkerson's. Storkerson's is a fairly straightforward, although it's going to be a big job of work. But the Storkerson crossing is a fairly straightforward. You have plenty of headroom there. You have the very well defined stream. You don't have a pond or a dam just downstream.
Right.
Um,
2 ponds.
That's 2 ponds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Gordon Ross's crossing, the Ross property crossing is gonna be fun for you, Roger.
Does
I
the
think-
town have easement rights on all these
We have either an easement or the historic right to drain. The one place where we need an easement, we are currently working with MDC to get an easement. You know, so that we'd have the right.
Which one is there, Krista? Could you point it out to the commission?
It will be, we're crossing
5 and 6.
6.
5 and 6 is a series of 2 catch basins that funnel south and then empty onto the land at the northern property border of the Norton's home, where the surrounding horseshoe-shaped property was sold to MDC. The engineer's recommendation, Roger, you can elaborate.
In that case, 6 discharges down to 5. The outfall for 5 is submerged, and it's inadequate. And at that point in time, we looked at it and said, let's get the water away from where it's submerging the pipe and discharging directly across the road into the upland area on MDC property. So instead of collecting it and sending it down to a catch basin and a drainage system that has a problem, we're getting it across the road and onto MDC property sooner.
But it is an upland area.
It will discharge into an upland area.
My view, I mean, there definitely is regulated area here, but there was very little wetlands disturbed. You know, Roger, you can, you know, too, I mean, with all these projects, the actual wetlands disturbance is minimal at best, would you say?
Yes.
I mean,
It's an
if-
attempt to, whether you wanna consider the outfall, none of them are active, but the outfalls are all eroding. And the whole aspect of this would be to stabilize the outfalls and reduce the flooding alongside the road because of inadequate drainage capacity, and stop the erosion alongside the road. In the case of 2A, all the water coming down the road hits basin 2A. Quite frequently, it's just a singular basin, quite frequently it gets covered with leaves, and the water continues around the curve and basically heads toward the cross culvert at Ross's, taking all the sand from I don't know how many, a tenth of a mile down the hill at the end and directing it around toward the culvert at Ross's. So in that case, I'm advising putting in a double catch basin with a throat in the back, in other words, an opening so the water, right now it's just a flat basin, it covers up the leaves and it just, this would put 2 basins in line and a throat in the back with a curb and a throat where water can go directly into it. A new pipe across the road because the pipe is shot, a new catch basin over at the intersection of Stedman and Steel, and then a new pipe across the road and a discharge out there, which is presently into an upland area. And the outfall for that would be riprap to prevent the erosion that's occurring now.
What do we need to do with this?
We don't need to do
We don't need to
anything.
do anything.
For the record though, how much wetlands is considered minimal? I'm just curious.
I mean, I
Well, and I guess is a drainage path,
there's no actual,
There's no actual wetland soils.
well, so it'll be the
Right,
thank you.
drainage, the out, yeah, I mean,
there is no, that's,
So there is no actual,
Or there's very little. It might be a
Does it feed into wetlands?
it feeds into wetlands eventually.
over.
And it
But
doesn't-
You're not gonna be
Over-
work, you're not gonna have to
But you're
work
not
in the
working in
wetlands, you're just
wetlands.
gonna
No.
replace what's there.
okay.
I think one of the more interesting questions on this is distinguished from the Ross crossing and the Storkison crossings, which clearly involve, in both cases, perennial streams, and in some cases, in other areas of the town, there are significant intermittent streams. I think one of the more interesting and intriguing aspects of this project and this kind of thing is, at what point, and it's not a settled question, friends, there is no settled answer to this, so I'm just chucking it out here on the table so we can all laugh a little bit. At what point does a road drainage ditch or a cross culvert and its associated outfall, Roger says, onto an upland, at what point does that become a wetlands?
and I don't know if you remember when I first kinda started here and we had this discussion, I called Torrington.
Yep.
And we talked to Torrington, they said significant work within a wetlands. So it would be my opinion that the Storkerson crossing and the Ross crossing should
Obviously.
come before you for a permit.
Those have to.
You
We'd
know,
be very
the
upset if
reason-
you didn't.
Yeah, the reason that I'm bringing this before you is at your request, that you have asked several times for larger
We
projects.
appreciate
Bring
that.
them before us so we can give them recommendations or advice and that sort of thing. So that's what we're here for, is for recommendations and advice.
And we very much appreciate.
So if we
that
wanna
guys
go
are-
through crossing by crossing, so you can look at the recommendations and advice, you know, that's one way to proceed. If you just wanted the overview of it, I mean, it's up to this commission how much detail you want from, that's why we have Roger here and Dan here, not just me, because it's a larger project to be requested to come, so you can give the recommendation.
I have one serious comment about this project, both of you. And that is, do your sub-base right. You've got more springs under that road than you can shake a stick with. Please do your sub-base right. Make me a happy camper.
Yeah. I get so my head and hit my top of the cab of my pickup when I go down that road.
A lot of people have been waiting a long time. I think that the only real modification to the system that has been requested significantly is to change that one outlet onto the property. We have a formal request in before NBC. We don't know what the response to that will be. So we've asked, and we're trying to work with our neighbors at NBC to implement the recommendations of our consulting engineer so that the town utilizes the best practices that you folks want us to use. So we have there, I met with them last week, of course, to try to speed the process along, and have told them, if you're gonna say no, obviously, you know, we'll be working within the existing outlets.
Would it be possible, Dan, to, since we have a construction season of X months, which isn't all that long, would it be possible to place the cross pipe in place during this construction effort, but have it until, if MDC proves dilatory about giving us an easement? Would this be a feasible?
I believe that's
approach?
possible.
And this might,
The,
this would avoid the classic situation of, oh golly, we just paid this, but now we're carrying it again.
well, don't forget, implementing this recommendation comes at a premium cost to the town. If we were to use the existing infrastructure draining within the road down to the southerly catch basin and using the outflow, we're not adding more pipe across the road.
I think it's very clear, we're all familiar with steel, and I think it's very clear that the existing drainage needs serious help. And the existing subbase, particularly in the areas where it turns into tank traps when it crusts, needs serious help. I think we all agree on that, we're familiar with the road. These bad ditches along there, whether a ditch, roadside ditches, or wetlands or not, we need better ditches. Cross culverts need perhaps to be bigger. We certainly need cross basins and catch basins, which are worthy of the name. I'm not totally convinced that deeper catch basins and catch basins with sumps have to do with that, because they require so much maintenance. That's personal stuff. Some people like them, they can stand out them. Some people don't like them because people don't get the same value. Troy, you've got some experience with that kind of thing. What are your thoughts on catch basins?
Well, you maintain them, the deep sumps work, that's the thing, it's maintenance is, like the city of Torrington, switched to all salt, so our maintenance of catch basin sumps is right down to nothing. You get your normal leaves and stuff like that.
That's,
The
you know, you're.
maintenance is the biggest issue, and that's what causes the erosion of the structures themselves, that causes the damage of them, because it's not maintained.
That's, we're in a discussion here about what's the best way to do this job, and that's, a couple of thoughts.
From my experience, the Holcomb Hill catch basins in that area tend to be the ones that need to be cleaned with the sewer sucker, but the ones on Steel Road do not fill and have not been cleaned. You could look to the bottom of them now, and they do not collect an abundance of sand or, or material. They do obviously get their share going over the top, but we could go over to Holcomb Hill and they fill.
The one observation I
why.
have on Steel Road there is that the basins may not be filling, but for whatever reason, there's an awful lot of sand going across the road, and that would be my concern is what type of ditches, are those ditches just gonna fill back up again? You know, the longevity of this project and making sure it's going to last.
But also, in my experience, the larger amount of water you have, they tend to clean themselves
They
out.
do have a way of cleaning themselves out. I think that, yeah, I think not so much the stretch between where you're working out is, it's a stretch up, past, oh my goodness, I don't know who lives there now, I think of it as the Mun's house, the steeper stretch going up the hill. There are some ditches which you're gonna need some major work here.
But those Fairleigh Acres on that.
Yeah.
Where the hill is sliding.
But, and for that matter, down below in the stretch you're working on, the hill is slumped into the drainage, which is pretty bad.
That's another, a project, you understand that this project is ending well before them, but that's a it is.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I
obviously,
was-
we would be back to you folks to discuss the crossing at Storkerson, the recommendation, there is a recommendation for a box culvert there that Roger has prepared. But, at that point, the quantity of funds that we put into the budget for the existing drainage will be expired
Yeah.
doing this quantity of work.
I think, if I may say so, in my opinion, you're attacking the worst part of the road. That's my opinion. Certainly that's where the worst frost heaves are up here. And
The frost heaves are sort of double-edged, some of it is from under the road, some of it is from the road completely disintegrates, and it is a bathtub, i.e. curbs are built up, sand berms are built up on either side,
Yeah.
and it's continually filling with water when it rains. And that exacerbates the frost heaves, which let more water in again, so it's a compounding situation.
One of the rules of the game is the whole idea is to keep your subbase dry and solid, and neither one is happening.
At present, there's several roadside drainage swales that just dump into a sump, a hole on the side of the road and go out the pipe. Under this, we've got what's called a DG end wall. It's a basin where the two sides of it are open with a trapezoidal so that your roadside swales can feed into that basin rather than feeding into a dug hole with no head wall or anything. This is also intended to get the drainage from eroding immediately and right on the edges of the road and creating some hazards, shoulder hazards that are existing out there now.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go on record saying that I think I speak for the rest of the committee, but we wish to thank the first selectman and our engineer for making this presentation to us. As you can see, we are clearly, this committee is clearly interested in what goes on in New Hartford, in the town of New Hartford, and our interests are only to protect the best we can the natural resources that we have. And I think I speak for everybody when I say thank you for your time and effort.
We appreciate you having us. Any other questions or concerns?
Have at it, guys.
Good luck.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
You know, I like the fact that, you know, you're working to replace what's there. And, you know, of course, we just wanna make sure that as long as you're concentrating on what's replacing what's there, not having to venture into inland wetlands areas, I don't think there should be any concerns. I think
There are, you know, as some of the pipes are being enlarged, they're
That's okay.
inadequate in size and
Or they're flat.
so you can improve what's there, which is a good thing.
and the whole intention is
By all
to
means, improve it.
attempting to.
Thank you all.
You're very welcome, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, anything to do with this.
basically what we've been talking about is what,
Now, I had thought even before this meeting about, huh? Yeah, oh, yeah, minutes of the last meeting, anybody?
I have a correction I think should be made, I believe at least one motion was attributed to me.
Oh, yeah, I heard
Yes.
about that, yes, and
Oh, you did? Okay.
you did it remotely.
I read them.
You're pretty good, Jack.
I know, it was hard because I left right here with my third glass of wine when I made it.
I used the previous minutes for the template for the next minute, and so you probably
I know,
inadvertently
I
got
open my
left in
mouth all the time, so I didn't.
I'd like to thank Stacy, she's coming through for me in PDF and everything.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
That's what I like. So I can
Other than that, I have nothing, nothing else.
make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Right?
Now, even before this meeting, when the topic came up kind of indirectly, I had planned under other business proper to bring up a group of related problems. And I'd just like to talk about it a little bit and then maybe get a little reaction and you can think about it and come back next meeting. The Inland Wetlands Commission, us, we are volunteers, but in a very real sense, we are dependent on the people of the town to volunteer. That is to say, we are very much dependent on the townspeople to come before us with their applications and their needs. Occasionally, we run into something such as this unfortunate gentleman on Stuff Hollow, where a project is clearly in wetlands and is within obvious sight of a town road, or can be seen from a public way. And we can address that. But as a general case, we are totally dependent on the people of the town coming voluntarily to us with their applications. In fact, in some cases, in many cases in the town, we are in a situation where a project is being undertaken, or could be undertaken. There are large wetland areas in this town, where projects could be undertaken which are not visible from any public way. In those situations, we are completely dependent on the voluntary participation of the public. And it concerns me a little bit, because we have, Rista has no right has no capability, nor do we, has no capability, and nor should she, of going on private land to snoop, fundamentally, without probable cause. And this is as it should be, in my view. I mean, this being a strict constructionist, etc. My question to the commission is, how do we cope, or how do we encourage people to come before the commission with these applications? And are there things which we are doing which intentionally or unintentionally discourage people from coming and making applications? Just as a couple of thoughts. Is our fee structure, for instance, does this discourage people from coming to make application? Is our fee structure, if we make a determination that somebody has to have a public hearing, this involves considerable additional expense for the applicant. Is this something which should be borne by the applicant? Is this something that should be borne by the town budget? Hands left, I can say that. These are things which I think we need to consider. In the case of this gentleman up on Stub Hollow. I think we need to consider, again, I realize we did this a couple of years ago. I think we need to consider, again, whether the owner of the property or the contractor should be responsible.
I don't think we can legally make the contract.
And, yeah, I was just gonna say, and if there's any way to do this, and probably isn't, I don't think there's any way we can make the contractor responsible. I think it does devolve on the homeowner, and
That doesn't sound right though. I mean, that contractor should know that he needs
Of course,
permits.
No.
So we should have some recourse.
as I say,
Somebody should have
this
some
is-
recourse.
This is a really, this is a set of really sticky wickets, and
Well-
something which we really need to think about.
The contractor entered into an agreement with the homeowner. The homeowner is the one that hired him to do the work that we wanted done. I'm thinking, is there some way that any time someone new moves into this town, they are sent something to just make them aware that when you make plans or have having ideas about mitigating your area, your land area, where there's streams or whatever, that you need to come to the town to file an application, because the burden of proof will be on you, not anyone else that you hire. I think this kid came into this town, probably didn't realize that he had to do this, and went ahead and did it, and then got caught.
First
But
of
at the
all-
same, but at the same time, maybe he did know what he was doing, and according to the economic conditions, hey, I saved myself a couple bucks, no one will find out, he got caught as well. So you really can't say that he's,
No,
You
that
gotta
he's
know the whole
innocent.
story.
That's
Yeah.
right.
This whole story is, when he came in here the first time, what had happened is, the LaPointe guy's son, who is not a contractor, started the job for this kid.
See?
They're friends.
There you
okay?
go.
So then, the scope of the work became too much for the son to handle.
The father had
So
to
he
take
calls
over.
his father. Now, at this point, the father, who being a contractor, should have said to the applicant, listen, this is big deal, you need to get permits to get this done. He chose not to do that. Or he may have told the kid that, and he decided not to.
See, that's the thing.
What
we
me
don't
and
know.
Jack
We
did to
don't
him,
know.
I do not feel bad about. Because what we did to him, we would make anybody that came before this commission that was gonna do that scope of work,
Yep.
provide us that information before they did that.
It was a huge project, that's the
So,
problem.
if he has to pay some money to do what he was supposed to do in the first place,
No,
I'm
I-
sorry.
No, I agree with that. I think we need to separate that specific job from the general consideration, but if I may make a comment on that specific job, I think we need to consider very carefully what is going to happen when he comes back, unable to obtain the information which is requested. I think that, I'm not gonna go any, I don't wanna go any further on that now because
Discuss that
the,
further.
Yeah, that's
that's
not something you
part
wanna
of the public
discuss
hearing.
right now.
But I think that needs to be considered very carefully, because I can almost guarantee that's what's gonna happen.
He did in passing go on to something else. And whether he actually meant it or not, he brought up something that seems to come up with these after the fact, and sometimes with other ones, on a fairly regular basis. And while the burden of proof must lie with the landowner, I think there's a consistent, it seems to me, response by people that the town does not have an up-to-date wetlands map. I don't know if that's true or
It is
not.
true.
That it does have one? And that seems to me would be a problem.
Well, there is no up-to-date wetlands map. It's a map done by NRCS, who has delineated the wetlands for the whole state, and at a scale that big, they can be up to 3 acres off.
Right.
It is not for specific site development. The only way to get a specific site development map is to have a soil scientist go out with that map and have that
But
level survey.
my question is, can we at least, with something like this, where presumably back when the subdivision was put in, somebody noted that it was wetlands, even though it was grandfathered?
It was, I doubt it.
But
I-
could we at least have in a file somewhere a running record of these, so that the next time somebody comes to the lot next door,
They are aware of it.
they're aware?
I think
If
this
they
is,
come and look, it's still their responsibility to come and look, it's their responsibility to take the survey. But
this has come up a number of times before, is a dependence which is quite possibly a defensible dependence. I don't think this has actually been litigated at any time. A defensible dependence on the NRCS maps for location of wetlands. And I think you did it, on the map, a notation was made. We requested, and I believe it was put on, a notation was made that this map is not to be used to determine the presence or absence of wetlands on a specific site. And that's the best we can do, other than withdrawing the map completely. And since the map is available in the public domain, withdrawing the map completely, it just make life more
Is there
difficult.
something that we
One of the
could,
problems we have is that if somebody is honest enough to come to us with an application, now in some respects, we're kind of bound by what information we have to ask for. If we don't, and the neighbor gets mad at us, now,
Well,
we're.
no, there's
So-
a tremendous amount of, we have latitude. We may ask for a list of things, not exclusively. We don't have to. We have a tremendous amount of latitude in what we may or may not request, so I think we're fairly clear on that. The fact that we may request certain items, such as a full-scale A2 and T2 type survey, wetlands maps of the entire property and 100 feet beyond the boundaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't mean, it does not say that we must. It says that we may. So I think we're in fairly good shape on that. I think there is another issue here, though, is that, which is sort of related to everything we're talking about, and we're not gonna make any decisions on any of this evening. But Party A comes to us over here and has a wetlands down on the back 40, and being a good, honest individual, he comes to us and says, I wanna do something with this wetlands. It's not particularly inside of the road or anything like that. The guy's not his guy. We say, that's fine. We're going to charge you this for the permit, this for the public hearing, this for the public notices, and so on. Party B next door says, that's for the birds. I don't want to pay these fees. It may not be that he wants to evade the regulations, but I don't want to pay these fees. We have no way of even knowing that he has done that, never mind getting after him. Because unless somebody makes a formal legal complaint with sufficient evidence, that Rista could go to a judge and obtain a warrant, we can't even take notice of it.
Well, I can,
And this, I think, what I'm going at here is, I think we need to think about, and personally, I feel we need, and I don't know how we can do it, but personally, I think we need to think about our fee schedule to make sure that we are not, in that stupid way, discouraging people from coming before this commission.
You know, I honestly speaking, I don't think the fee schedule is exorbitant.
I don't think it's
I don't think it's the problem at all. I think that you're gonna have people, no matter how much money they have, are still gonna wanna not bump the system, not tell you what they wanna do, because they just don't, I'm not gonna pay them that money, what the hell for?
Probably
They're gonna do
actually-
what they want, doesn't
It
matter.
may actually be worse with people with more money rather than less.
Well, absolutely.
Usually is.
Absolutely, and I don't think you're gonna change the mentality of people that think that they don't have to do certain things according to the rules.
No.
I don't think you're ever gonna change that. I think what we need to do is what, off the record, a CYA, which is to every new person that becomes a landowner or a homeowner in this town, be sent a pamphlet to remind them that anything that you wanna do with your property, Especially if you feel that if there's a wetland or a pond or stream, you need to come to the town and go through the formal process. At least if you inform them of that, and they consciously don't follow that, now you've got grounds to say, you know what, you were told, you were sent a pamphlet about this, you still went ahead and did
Maybe
it,
this could
you're
go
right.
out with
The tax.
with the tax again.
I mean, really, that's what you have to do, you have to tell them.
The flip side of this is,
By the way, pay us some
what
money.
is that, how do
Here's some
we
more, you gotta
discourage
do
somebody
something.
in town from saying, and a classic example was, on Burdick Road. I wanna make an area for my daughter to ride her horse from
Well,
one
that was a
place,
duty, wasn't it?
get a contractor from out of town and fill in 10,000 square feet of wetlands, fill it in.
Okay, I would like to make.
We didn't have any
Well, I think-
recourse
I
at
think
that
the
time
after the
at
fact-
all.
I think the after the fact fee is probably the one that really should be looked at in terms of, should we perhaps change this? I know this came up the other year.
Yeah.
You know,
And
But
then
we were told we couldn't go, that was as high as we could go with it. when we-
No, it wasn't, it wasn't that it was as high as we could go. The problem which arose very quickly was that we wanted the flexibility to make a determination as to what the after the fact fee should be, and we do not have the authority to do that. What I would like to do then, because it's getting on and I want my dessert, one of the prerogatives of a chairman. What I would like to do is throw out an idea, or the idea again, we have two, we have West Hill Pond, I gave you some stuff to work on. I would like to see if we can figure out ways within the rules which we have to play with, which make us fundamentally a judicial body. But within those rules, figure out ways in which we can convince the people of the town, including the town, that the Wetlands Commission, in the words of the most frightening sentence in the English language, is from the government, and we're here to help you.
yes.
Is there a welcome
Because-
back in the new
What I would like to do, let me tell a little story on my own background here. 30 years ago,
Jamie was a little boy.
I was not a little boy. When 30 years ago, I worked for the state of Vermont's Department of Environmental Protection, Department of Environmental Review. And the fundamental premise in Vermont at that time, it is not so now, but at that time was the Department of Environmental Engineering was there to help the people of the state of Vermont. If they were in a situation, if it was in many situations, we did some of the engineering for them. On at least 2 occasions that I can recall, my partner and I were there with big pipe wrenches to some implement. Just the design, but we were spinning pipe, guys. Perhaps that was a little excessive, perhaps in fact, I think it could only have worked in a state such as Vermont was 30 years ago. But what I would like to do is figure out a way for us as a commission, convince the people of the town coming to us, helpful, that we're not there to be the bad guys, that we're here to be as helpful as we possibly can, staying within the unfortunate judicial
Where,
rubric that we have. Roger?
if I make any other business proper to come before the committee, we had a little discussion here tonight.
Yeah.
You'll excuse me, Troy, I was a little taken aback, because I thought there was more than just wetlands being involved here. The town came in to notice you that they were gonna do something on a non-wetland area. Isn't that business proper to come before the commission?
It was,
If you had accepted it and said, geez, we'd like to know more, but you should have accepted it without the debate and said, we'd like to know more, and let them give their presentation.
yeah,
And, you know, for whatever reason, maybe it should have been on there, but if a person comes to you and says, I wanna talk to you about this, you say, that's not proper to come before us, it's gotta be legally noticed. Well, I want an informal discussion with you.
Okay, Roger, the problem with the Antolini Field one, and as a general rule, yes, I agree with you. The problem with the Antolini Field one was that it required an action from the commission, which then had to be on, as an item on the agenda, so we had to vote on. The road, we could have picked up without voting at other business property. But the Antolini one, we had to put under, just for a legal consideration. But this, Roger has a very good point, is,
You know, whether they come to Rista and say, I think I've got some wetlands, but what am I gonna need to do? And I talk to the wetland commission at a meeting.
We've had engineers come in, we've
I
had
mean-
people come in and say, this is a discussion of potential, and they put out a plan.
I mean, if I was the guy on West Hill, except, I mean, if I was the applicant tonight, I would look at it and say, it's gonna cost me $5,000 to get the information they want. I'm gonna hope I can slip it in first, and if they catch me with an after the fact, man, what's it gonna cost me? $300 for me to say, I'm sorry, I won't ever do it again? I think your after the fact needs to go up to everybody, whether it's a little, the fact that they didn't come and they went ahead and did it. Then they get dinged, doesn't matter whether it's big or small. Let's scare them up front, say if it's an after the fact, it's gonna cost you $5,000.
And I agree with him, man, because, you know, when you've done the damage, if you have to mitigate, it's gonna cost you big time to mitigate anyway, so why not
in
just,
most cases, it's
so
not.
let people know, you can't do this.
I think we need
I
to.
think what Troy and I are saying is, maybe the word's gonna get, this guy's gonna go home and go, holy mackerel. He's gonna call his contractor and say, holy mackerel. And now,
He's gonna say something
nothing may
else.
happen, except that contractor may not do something in New Hartford again without thinking about it. So,
That I wouldn't guarantee.
no, I
It's
know.
only fair, everybody that comes in here honestly has to pay them bills to do what they wanna do.
Yeah.
And then you try to do it underminded, okay, now you're gonna have to pay, I'm sorry.
Just like trying to build a house without a permit, it's the same thing, you have to
May
go
I-
through the normal
may I-
channels.
I don't wanna go too much further on this.
Yeah.
May I
Ice cream,
make
no.
one very serious point? Our entire system, of which we are part, makes a fundamental presumption that in the case of error, the party is innocent until proof beyond a reasonable doubt is presented. What I am hearing here is that the party is guilty until proof beyond a reasonable doubt is
The
presented.
work is done.
The work is done, I think I
That's what he's
No,
guilty
what-
of.
no, what
Whether
we-
he
no,
knew about
no,
it or not
no,
is not
What we are saying
question.
here, what we are saying here effectively is that the homeowner is guilty of not properly applying for this permit. He may have had no knowledge.
That's.
And then the question is a lack of knowledge,
Hey, I could play stupid all the time, and I'm pretty good at it, by the way.
may
So,
I just,
you know.
just leave it in mind that we must, I think, be very, very, very careful on philosophic grounds to avoid making a presumption of guilt. Particularly if we choose to raise, as we want, if we choose to raise the after effect to the point where it becomes a real problem.
I think we need to continue this discussion at another
If,
time, but.
if someone moves into this town, becomes a new resident of the town, they need to be sent pamphlets, simple notices or reminders about any work that you're going to do, excavation work other than building, you need to come to the
But
town and discuss
honestly,
it.
even if they don't, it's their responsibility to know the laws of the town.
Absolutely, just to come here and go, I think I'll build 100-foot long pond, you know, I don't have to go to the
Who
town.
gives you, when you move into a new town, cause when I moved here, I got a thing in the mail,
just
like
gonna ask
coupons and,
Does
you
the,
know, who's
does
in
the
charge of
Chamber of
that?
Commerce give a
Well,
welcome
when they
packet?
record a new owner, send them the pamphlet.
Send them a whole packet.
Right,
From each
right.
of the
Welcome
commissions,
to
here's the
town
town,
Hartford.
these are the, you know, the things that are,
I
I don't know if we have one of those.
Not that it's not a good idea, I mean, I see a couple,
Legal issues.
well, I mean, fundamental application of it. One, we don't really know who's new to town, who's not new to the town,
The
who's gonna
clerk,
come in.
when they record, they don't know who the new owner is?
I mean, we'll know who the owner is, but we don't necessarily have their mailing address or anything like that. And the cost of all of that in itself, you know.
Well, how about getting a hold of the person's address and then asking them if they have an email and send an email? It's not gonna cost you anything to do it.
I'm not sure it's gonna go anywhere, because honestly, you could live in this town all your life and still claim ignorance of the law. And it's still your responsibility, even if you were to know what the law is.
Right,
So,
I know.
And it's not like any other
I
town,
will
it's
have
different.
to, I will have to admit to having lived here, not all my life, yet. But hiring a local contractor to re-roof the house, a local contractor. And I never thought to ask him if he pulled a permit. Obviously, my assumption was that he's a local
It's your
contractor.
responsibility.
He
to
should
pull
have
the
pulled the permit. As it turns out, it was when those GAF shingles were bad, 20 years ago, whatever. I went to file all the paperwork and everything, and the first thing they said was,
Where's your permit?
"Where's the permit?" I went to the contractor and I said,
Where's the permit?
"Oh, I never pulled a permit for a roof in town."
I think it's the
I
homeowner's
wanted-
responsibility to
what?
pull a permit, correct?
It's both.
But I think
Well,
the
you know,
piece
what
that's
do you pay the
missing,
guy for, you know?
the piece that's missing
Now I
here,
learned my lesson, but, you know,
I think the piece that's missing here is that when people go out and do things in a possible wetland area, that they have to be educated about how important it is to maintain the integrity of the wetlands, and no matter
They
where
need
they
to.
live.
Most people have no clue as to what a wetland is.
Exactly.
Most people have no idea
Hmm.
what a wetlands is, according to Connecticut law.
But I mean, I
The
think they,
concept of a wetlands is there water there? Is there a pond there? Am I gonna get wet? To most people, that's a wetland. I think the most positive thought I've heard so far, and I really do want to start this up, is, and I want people to keep thinking about this, because I want to bring it up again at the next meeting. But the most positive thought I've had so far, which sounds absolutely silly, is an insert into the tax bill.
Well, and one thing just to add, Nancy Perez had brought this up last time I spoke with her. And, you know, I don't know if any of the commissions are interested in volunteering or not, commissioners, but to have a booth at New Hartford Day,
Absolutely.
you know, and to inform people. So, you know, if you, that's something you're interested in, I'll talk with, I'll find out who's in charge of New Hartford Day and see if, I know the town has a booth, maybe this wetlands commission can, and,
Yeah,
you know.
I'll stand up right now and say, if it's a day on which, if it's not a Sunday,
I don't know.
I would be interested in having a wetlands booth.
I got one more thing before we close this, and I wanna address what you said about that situation with me not voting for that to be on the agenda. My problem is this town has a way of presenting itself to us, but in a short amount of time where anybody knows about it. And that's where my problem lies, okay? And that's why I did what I did tonight. And it happens all the time here with this administration, and I'm quite tired of it. So,
I think it's.
I made a point tonight, and it's on the record, so I feel good.
and there was no question about how you felt.
Thank you.
I wasn't so sure.
You're a teacher.
Any further? May I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Troy.
Second.
Lou got it, Lou got it.
I don't think we can, I'm serious about